Hey, welcome to another episode of Big Money with Nicholas Dengel. We're going to be talking about some interesting things about social media and specifically Twitter and how some of the individuals, the politicians, use that to their advantage. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome to another episode of Big Money with Nicholas Dengel. Nicholas Dengel is the general manager at the Glockner's Superstore in Portsmouth, Ohio. And Nicholas, it's always a pleasure talking with you about big money. And you know, it's interesting. This is the season. I guess the last 4 years has been the season for the upcoming election.
Correct.
Isn't it amazing how when I was growing up, our election process was usually about 8 months for the president.
Okay. Well, you know, times have changed. People are trying to get out early, get their name out there. So,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's what's the saying? Early bird gets worm.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, one of the areas that individuals have been using has been social media, more so than, well, it's relatively new.
Correct. It is fairly new. It's probably, you know, I don't have specific dates in my head or anything like that, but I think Facebook was created, you know, I think it was 99 and then came along, and then, you know, Twitter, Instagram, you know, and LinkedIn all followed. You know, but it is fairly young technology that's out there. You know, you and I back in the day, you know, how did we get information? You know, radio, newspaper, TV, you know, and that's how we learned about new things upcoming to the market, or, you know, whatever information was passed on through those medias. Then social media came around, and the internet came around. Well, the internet first, and then social media, and information is just traded, you know, so quickly and so fast anymore. You know, it's instant, pretty much.
Yeah, very, very true what you're saying. I know that growing up, you had a set of encyclopedia books.
Yes.
And everything that was in those encyclopedia books was fact.
Correct.
Now, with the explosion of the social media and the different components, etc., now we start to see that things aren't necessarily factual.
Correct.
And it is interesting, you know, and you know, part of the things that we're going to do is talk about the different generations, but you know, one of those social medias is Twitter. And we have a president that uses Twitter for different marketing purposes.
Yes, he uses Twitter, you know, like them, don't like them, it doesn't matter. But what he's doing is getting in front of people and staying in front of people. And, you know, people want to hear what he's going to say next. If they hate him or if they love him, it doesn't matter. It goes back to Howard Stern. You know, I don't know if you were a Howard Stern listener, you know, back in the day. You know, Howard Stern came out in the 80s. You know, he was
very controversial.
Very controversial. You know, you know, I think it was back in like 99, 2000 when XM signed him to like $100 million contract. And when I heard about that, I was like, there's no way they could pay him $100 million. And, you know, people paid the money for XM radio of subscription services to listen just to Howard Stern.
Oh, that makes interesting sense.
if Twitter was out when, Howard Stern was going through the ranks, I mean, what do you think he would be doing on social media? How do you think he would stay in front of people? And that's how he stayed in front of people, is being, a little off the cuff, probably real off the cuff.
Sure. It's interesting. You bring up a good point. There are at this stage of the game, there are 22 individuals who are Democrats that are vying for the presidency. We have obviously one president and one candidate, maybe a couple for the Republican side. But on the nightly news, who do they talk about the most?
Donald Trump.
That's right, our current president. And there's an old adage in marketing and advertisement: I don't care what they say about me, just make sure you spell the name right. Now, I don't know if that's good.
No, I mean, that is good, because they're always going to remember. I mean, Trump's not a very hard name to misspell, but everybody's going to remember that name. His son, Donald Trump Jr., everybody, I couldn't tell you his other kids' names, but I'll remember Donald Trump Jr. because I know Donald Trump. And that's what he does. He puts out content that people want to read, don't want to read, and people follow that. Like I said, it doesn't matter if they love him or hate him. People will follow him because of the content that he's putting out there.
So, I don't want to draw this conclusion, but from listening to what you're saying, if we really wanted to get the attention, if we had a business, etc., we should just throw stuff out.
No, you don't want to just throw stuff out. You want to have good content. Starting out, you want to have really good content so people are paying attention. Be like, oh, well, what they said, this was kind of funny. This was sincere. This was educational. And if you can put that stuff out there on social media, using Twitter or Facebook or whatever. Speaking of Twitter, other than following Donald Trump, do you know a business that has, I can't remember how many followers they have, but Wendy's has a huge amount of followers on Twitter because they're always saying something funny on there. And then people always tag Wendy's on there. I had my Dave Single or whatever, and Wendy's always comes back and likes that. But it's good content that they're putting out there that people want to see. This is people's TV anymore. I promise you that. I really do. I've never seen something in my life, take over like wildfire like social media really has, because there are a lot of people out there putting out good content, funny, sincere, educational, but you have to do it on a consistent basis. Donald Trump, what he's putting out there, it's out there every day. I mean, there's a tweet from him every morning. There's a tweet from him in the afternoon. There's a tweet from him in the evening. If you like it or don't like it, he's going to put what's out there.
Well, you bring up a good point. Many times when I go to the University of Rio Grande, I'll have the NPR station on because I like different podcasts and different things. And one of the things that the commentary is basically Trump said this, Trump said that. But of the 22 Democrats that are running, I only remember 2 or 3 individuals.
I'm not real familiar with the individuals either, but are they leveraging social media?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah.
And, maybe we should, find out who these 22 Democratic Party candidates are and see if they are active on social media. Because if they're not, they're losing out. They really are, because they're not staying in front of people enough. I'm sure they have some good points on debates and things like that, but if they're not staying in front of people, you're not going to win.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let's talk a little bit about the generations. The greatest generation, they call the greatest generation, are those that lived before 1945. And believe it or not, there's still about 11 million individuals out there that are in that greatest generation. And it's also interesting how they use social media. Those that, whether you're 100 years old or 10 years old, most everyone has the capacity, or most everyone has the opportunity to use some kind of social media, whether it's a phone, whether it's email, text. And it is interesting, those that are acclimated to it prefer voicemails, and they prefer voice calls, and they prefer direct mail.
Yeah.
But they will use that, and so I would imagine in your marketing strategies at Glockner's, you take into account the different ways.
Yes. And do you know why they're called the greatest generation?
No.
Well, here's why. Before 45, you had World War I, World War II. And after that happened, these people came back and really developed the country that we live in. And they probably were. They were probably the hardest working people.
And they went through the Depression.
Yes.
Yeah.
A very hard time. And to come back from that to where they're at now, but they weren't going to stop. They really weren't. And, they're not afraid of social media. There's still a lot of people out there that, they may not understand it to use it to its full benefit, but still use it every day. And, they do like voice calls. They do like handwritten mail versus email. And that's okay. There's a little personal touch to that.
You know who is a greatest generation? Two of our political people, Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Okay.
So it's interesting if someone says, well, those old people don't really get involved in the social media.
There you go.
That's right.
There you go. So,
The ones that I'm most familiar with, of course, I'm a baby boomer. And a baby boomer is somebody that 1946 to 66, somewhere around there. We saw a lot of different changes. We went from a very stable government philosophy to a hippie culture of don't trust the man, that kind of thing. And it's interesting, most boomers will answer phone calls. Most boomers will check their emails. Once we get acclimated to it, we use a text messaging, and it takes us a little bit longer, but we use social media to some extent.
I remember the first time you sent me an emoji, I was like, the world's going to end.
I remember you telling me that. Well, Dwayne, he's behind the scenes. He showed me, he said, now press this little button. Click. Hi!
Yeah. Do you use social media?
To some extent, you have to look at the fact that at Ohio State University of Rio Grande, we started with Blog Talk Radio, which was a podcasting system. At that time, universities were using podcast systems for lectures, and they were hoping 2 or 3 individuals would listen to the lectures. And so we sort of grew up on podcasting. We now do Facebook. We help businesses do 1 minute, 2 minute Facebook blurbs. We're very actively involved in video formats and things of that nature. Dwayne has a variety of different apps that he has access to.
The largest internet company out there is Google.
Yeah.
And what platform are we using right now? We're using YouTube.
That's right. Your apps, and we're streaming on YouTube.
Correct.
That's
correct.
Right.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge. And if you're not going to be a part of the game,
yep.
And you're not going to put out good content,
that's right.
It doesn't matter.
That's right.
Just stay at home.
Yeah.
Don't even go to work. Don't even turn on the lights.
Yep.
And you have to in today's world, because this is where it is going. The boomers the previous generations, are understanding that and, have accepted that.
That's right.
Generation X, probably the greatest generation.
Now that they're the 65 to 80, so they're thereabouts.
Yeah.
And so you're a Generation X, right?
Yes.
Now the text messages, you love text messages, you'll take phone calls, you'll check email, and you stay up with different social media. Whereas if I get into Facebook, do I need anything else? That's sort of the mentality. I'm fine with this. Whereas Generation X, you're saying, we'll try many?
I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have Twitter. Do I post a lot of things? No, but I do get a lot of information from there.
Yeah.
Interesting things, yes, I will share. I do look for the humor. I do look for the educational. And you can set preferences of what you like to see and what you don't like to see. And if that's, like I've said before, you got to have the good content out there, and you have to repeat the good content. And it's not easy. It's not. I wish it was. I wish it was easy for me to be creative like some of these people that get on, Instagram and, is drinking some kind of drink, because these companies will pay these famous people to wear their shirt. And I'm not talking, here's $50. They'll pay these people thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to use their product on social media, to advertise for them. I know we've talked about this before, but, you're watching TV. How many commercials do you watch?
I usually tune out on after the second commercial.
When it comes to commercials, I pick up my phone and I'm scrolling through social media.
They have 6 or 7 commercials at one time, and I'll be quite honest with you, I've moved away from regular TV programs because of the commercials.
Correct.
What is it? Out of every 10 minutes, you have 4 minutes of commercials. 3 to 4 minutes.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right. I don't know if this is getting totally off subject, but it will only be 3 minutes. There's this new show. It's called Yellowstone. It's about this ranch out in Montana, and it's kind of like the mafia. But they're a bunch of rangers. It's a great show, and I don't watch it live anymore. I wait till the next night to watch it, because I'm old and it comes on at 10 o'clock. I can't stay up that late. But I wait for it to come out on demand, because when it comes out on demand, I can fast forward through the commercials.
I understand.
Instead of wasting an hour. It's 35, 40 minutes.
Yeah, that is correct. And when you do go on demand, you can see how many minutes. It's interesting. I Love Lucy.
Yeah.
Their run time without commercials was 54 minutes. And they usually had just one advertiser. And they advertised twice during the whole program. Now it's every 5 minutes, 7 minutes. No, that's a good point.
I couldn't tell you the last time I picked up a newspaper, and I'm not knocking the newspaper or anything like that.
Well, something that I find rather interesting. First of all, I thought millennials, when you called an individual millennial, you were looking at the 1995 and that's not the case. Millennials include the baby boomers' children.
Correct.
The Gen Ys. It includes a variety of different individuals. These individuals primarily have always seen a computer in the house. And they've always, I don't think any of them really understand that a phone used to be attached to a wall. And you went as far as the cord would take you.
Correct.
Well, the millennials, so 1981 to 96, it's interesting that they use their phone quite a bit. They will respond to text very actively in the social media, but rarely do they answer phones, and rarely do they text back on email or
Email back.
yeah, email back. And I find that interesting because some of the students that I had will respond to one social media, but they won't respond to another. And I always thought, boy, emails were fantastic. Well, that's not the case.
It's text message are instant.
Yeah.
Emails, there can be a little bit
Yeah.
of a lag time, depending on the phone that you're using, the email that you're using. It can, not everybody's getting notified when they have an email come in. When I get a text message, it's right then and there. I can be on my laptop, at work and get an email, and 2 minutes later, it comes through on my phone.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just,
Yeah,
the instantaneous things.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. So getting back to the very beginning, and looking at our politicians and looking at our president, et cetera, I don't know what the viewing audience is as far as whether they're for or against our particular president, et cetera. But you do have to admit what Nicholas is saying is that he does use.
He does, and he is leveraging it. He really is, and like I said before, agree with him, disagree with him, whatever. But he is staying in front of a large amount of people. How many people are in the United States?
I think 400 million. It's between 300 and 400 million.
And let's just call 60% have Twitter. I can't do the math in my head real quick because I'm not good at math, but that's...
Let's just say 2 million or 200 million.
200 million.
Yeah.
And that's, 60%, so that's, 120 million people he's staying in front of. And let's break that down even further. How many people voted last year, or last presidential election?
I think I read somewhere where nearly half of the eligible voters.
So, I mean, you have 80 million people remembering that name. They're not going to remember what was said 18 months ago. Some people will. But who do I vote for? I remember that name. It's branding. It's marketing.
Yes.
I remember that name.
Yep.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I remember that name.
There's a cycle, news cycle. Today it's extremely important about the squad. 3 weeks from now, the squad won't be remembered. The squad is the 4 Democrat politicians that have been singled out by the president as, if you're not comfortable with the world or the country, maybe you ought to go back to where you belong. Mm-hmm. And so the media has picked him up and they call him the squad. Mm-hmm. Will we remember the squad 3-4 weeks from now? Probably not.
I don't know. It all comes back to, are they going to get on social media and leverage themselves over this? And they very well could. And if they want this not to go away, they should. Because if they do that, it's going to stay in front of a whole heck of a lot of people.
That's true, and so what you're saying with the marketing end, for particular businesses is to sort of follow what's being happening now with some of the politicians, is consider getting and using different platforms to keep the name.
Keep the name in front of you. And if you can't do that, people will forget. People say, well, there's this new thing out there. It's all about branding and marketing, making a name for yourself, having good content, and you know what? It's okay to have bad content out there too. Because, well, they messed up on this or whatever. But as long as you're out there and, having a similar message out there, like, if I was out there and promoting orange juice, who's going to care about me promoting orange juice? They're going to look at me and be like,
what does he know about orange juice? You don't know anything about orange juice.
sells cars. He doesn't
Yeah.
know anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that. I mean, it has to be in your background. But if you have good content, hey, you got the new Chevy Silverado, whatever, 2020 heavy duty truck out here now. Hey, let's check this out. This is why, it can tow 10,000 pounds, whatever. If you have educational video out there, people are going to pay attention to that. If you have humorous content out there, people are going to pay attention to that. Let's see what he's going to do next. What else? And there's a dealer in Huntington, West Virginia that has funny commercials on TV because they're always like, what are they going to do next? It goes back to Howard Stern. What is he going to say next?
One of the things that I'd like to, just in the 2 or so minutes we have left, or 1 minute, 2 minutes that we have left, what about the small businesses, the 1 and 2 owner businesses, or the 1 or 2 employee businesses? Getting a marketing, using social media can be expensive.
It can be, but it doesn't take much time. We live in a world today where you just pick up your phone and you can take a video of it and put it on social media or on Facebook or on Twitter to get yourself out there, and that doesn't cost anything. The only thing it costs is a little bit of your time. And if you can do that, it's endless. And to say, what, that's too hard to do. I remember back in the day when, we had to have this large video camera and,
Yep.
put it on a tape,
Yep. Transfer it over,
to it. This is, it's darn near
true.
instant.
Yeah.
So if you say you can't do that and put stuff on social media, like I said, don't even wake up and get out of bed.
Well, it is interesting. I had one business owner that said that, I sent out something on Facebook three weeks ago, and I got no responses. And what would you tell him?
I mean, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. Do it every day. Somebody will respond. Just because you did it 3 weeks ago and you didn't get any response, is that time to give up? No. Do it again. Do it every day. And if it doesn't work every day, do it in the morning. Do it in the best time to use social media: morning, lunch, evening.
You've given us a lot of food for thought, and in the being a baby boomer, etc., getting acclimated to all the different social media things, at least being open to better understanding them is extremely important.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Hey, we're talking with Nicholas Dengel. He's the general manager at the Glockner Superstore, the Glockner Chevrolet in Portsmouth, Ohio. This is a program in which we look at a variety of different issues on, as business owners, how to get more and more profit on using better marketing strategies. Nicholas, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Patrick Dengel. Stay tuned for our next show next month.